thrilled to see hundreds of participants online, and it is very exciting to see so many of you here today in person. I would also like to recognize and thank Riverside Investment and Development, 110 North Wacker, and CBRE for providing us with this beautiful conference space. As vaccinations continue to climb, more and more tenants are confidently setting a return date to the office. Our buildings have been focused for over a year on providing safe workplaces, and our members, along with our transit agencies and other essential workers, are more than ready to welcome your full teams back to the downtown that makes our vibrant neighborhoods a world-class city. With the mayor's support, we are even hosting vaccination sites at our office buildings to remove any possible shred of inconvenience that may remain. You'll hear from many experts today about these topics and more to help you prepare for a successful return to in-person collaboration. I'd like to thank Mayor Lightfoot for her leadership and for her efforts throughout the pandemic. I'd like to thank WBC for their collaboration on this event, and I'd like to thank all of you for participating today. I would also like to thank our partners volunteering their time for the Chicago Returns movement. We are excited about the future of our city and our collective recovery. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Michael Fassnock, Interim President and CEO of World Business Chicago and the Chief Marketing Officer of the City of Chicago.
Thank you, Fass, and good morning. It is great to see so many people, and I know as well all the money you will spend afterwards when you walk out at all the stores, because they need all of us. And I think this panel today is not about if people come to work, but when and how. So I think we all know companies can only thrive, do amazing things when people are face-to-face in person. Secondly, I think employees are ready and talent is ready to finally dress up again and show that we do have some great wardrobes and some great clothes. And last but not least, the city, we need the energy. We need the creativity of all people coming to all our neighborhoods, to downtown, to the Loop, to Fulton Market, to bring again back life to our city. It will be much more fun for all of us. So I'm looking forward to an exciting panel of when and how we come back all to work in a smart and safe and inspiring way. And now I'm supposed to introduce the mayor. Let's see if she's online with her schedule. I told her to be on time, but it's one of the few things she doesn't do listen enough to me. But I know she will come soon. We'll introduce our two great moderators who promised me to will not just ask softball questions, Emily and Todd.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Michael. Good morning. Good morning.
I needed that.
We're back in person. How many of you, this is the first time you've worn business casual in at least 3 months? Anybody? A couple of hands? Good. I was joking with Dave recently. We know that we're back in person when we're starting a few minutes late. The Zoom calls always start right on time, but in person we give ourselves a little grace. It's wonderful to be with you. As Michael said, Todd Connor, founder of Bunker Labs, an entrepreneurship organization, with my partner Emily Drake, CEO of the Collective Academy. We also write a column for Crane Chicago Business about Chicago's return. And we're just evangelists for Chicago, evangelists for what can happen and will happen in this city, not if we come back, but when and how. We're also delighted to be in this brand new building in the Loop. We want to thank the mayor's team. Someone had to take the lead in getting us this return conversation started, and we're grateful for her for setting the tone. It's also awesome to be part of a hybrid event, so we're waving hello to about 100 people that are here in person, socially distanced at the Bank of America Tower, a fabulous new building, and hundreds of you who are on Zoom tuning in for an exciting hour-long conversation focused on returning, progress, and continuing a leadership conversation about how Chicago returns.
And I'm told that we are ready to go live with Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Yes. Mayor Lightfoot, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can.
Loud and clear. You're unmuted.
Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for being here. I think this is a very important conversation. I'd like to thank World Business Chicago and BOMA, the Building Owners and Managers Association, not only for hosting today's important conversation, but really working in partnership with us and other leaders from commercial real estate and business community. I don't have to tell you that our world turned upside down in March of 2020. And as somebody said recently to me, we didn't just pause our old life. We've endured a big challenge, but also I think a lot of opportunities and successes over this last year. And those are the things that I want us to focus on and think about how we can build back our future, our city, in an even more spectacular fashion. I think from my conversations and my travels around the city recently, there's a real palpable sense of hope and expectation. And people are excited that our city is reopening. And I think we've done it the smart way. We've been cautious, which I know is at times frustrating and challenging some, but I'm committed to making sure that we make the steady progress and not do something that causes us to have to take many, many steps back. Before I go much further, let me also recognize some of the other important leaders that are on the call today. Dorval Carter, our great president of the Chicago Transit Authority, and Dorval and his team have kept the CTA running strong, clean, safe throughout this pandemic. We are the only major transit system in the country that continue to run at full tilt through the pandemic, and that is huge credit to Dorval and his team. Let me also give a shout out to Mike Pickett, who is a CPD deputy chief that really covers the Central Business District. Many of you know him for his longtime work as a commander in this area. And Mike is doing a tremendous job and is extraordinarily responsive and available to you. Dr. Emily Landon, Executive Director for Infection Prevention and Control at U of C Medicine. Suzanne Hendrick, Executive Vice President and Director of Asset Management at MB Real Estate. David Riefman, President of the Chicago Business Unit at Clayco, and as you know, the former Commissioner of the Department of Planning. Dave Castor, who I love, and I try to embarrass him with my love every time that I have the opportunity, but we know Dave is the BMO CEO here in Chicago, and Desiree Rogers, who needs no introduction, but is the Black Opal CEO. As I mentioned, we all know that this past year has been incredibly challenging. It's taken a heavy toll on our residents and our economy, and it's impacted our ability to learn by working alongside each other and build those important connections that you get from being in person. And while businesses, I think, have been incredibly adaptive and shifted to a lot of different online platforms, as I have said, and I think many CEOs agree, there's no substitute for that in-person human contact. It's there that bonds are made, that innovation happens. So I'm anxious not only to get the Chicago workforce back in person, but also for you all as well. And as you know, it also has a profound impact on a lot of ancillary businesses that serve the office workers in the towers. So whether it's the first floor snack shop, the lunch places, the shoe shine guy, all the other ancillary businesses, the pharmacies that are built up, the dry cleaner, they've all been hurt economically because their customers have not been back downtown. So it's a chance for us to kind of restart that economy as well. And the thing that I pledge to you is this. We are here for you as the city of Chicago to answer any questions, to provide support. As many of you know, yesterday with BOMA and the governor, we announced a series of pop-up vaccination sites that are going to be in places of business. If there's more that is needed, we want to be your partners in doing that. If there's more questions that we can answer about the efficacy and safety of the CTA or Metra, if that's an issue for your workers about coming back downtown, we've worked through a lot of hard challenges, but we've done it in partnership with you, and we are the better for that. So I want to just extend that invitation, but encourage you to be having these conversations about what the future looks like, and the future, from my perspective, as a mayor of this great city, looks bright and great and robust. Let me end this by saying this. I was downtown the other week at Navy Pier when the pier reopened and the fireworks display was what happened for the first time. Not only were people lined up on Lakeshore Drive to see it, but the level of people that were there, all with masks, I'll say, but the level of enthusiasm, families, individuals, young people that were there because we have missed each other. We've missed being together. We've missed the opportunities to come together and just have fun. Lots of exciting cultural events that are online for us this summer. Our arts and culture community is ready to come roaring back, and we're there to stand by and help them as their partners. But all of us have to be in this together, united together, as we have been over the course of this very difficult, tough time. You all know Chicago's history. We faced other challenges before, but every single time, we picked ourselves up, we moved forward, we've come back together, and we built an even stronger city as a result of the challenges, because we look for the opportunities and because we are the most resilient people on the planet. And I expect this time to be no different. And I see the buds of that hope, of that inspiration already starting to bear fruit. So thank you all. Thanks for this opportunity. And I look forward to hearing from you and a great conversation ahead.
So Chicago returning has me thinking practically, but also has me in my feelings. There's a lot to experience right now, and I'm so glad we're all in the room together to do it. A year ago, we, like all of you, started thinking and reflecting regularly about the incredible change and trauma the pandemic was inducing and its effect on individuals and organizations, and truly an effect that I don't think we can fully understand yet. In our work in the leadership development space that Todd and I do, across industries, across countries, we were going through it together. And we had a seat at the table with our clients to navigate coming back online after being on hold the early part of 2020. We are indeed evangelists for Chicago, and we know that all of you have a part to play too, just like Mayor Lightfoot said, in how we come back in this new phase.
So with another opportunity brings a beginning to take stock of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, and we need you as part of that conversation. If you have questions as we go today, visit chicagoreturns.com. That is the website where this conversation is being hosted, where there's up-to-date information. And feel free to use the speech bubble for those of you joining us virtually in the bottom right corner to submit questions that you have and thoughts that you have about how we return equitably, safely, and quickly. We're also interested in your feedback and for what you plan to do as we come. So for those of you, again, use the chat freely. We love questions. Here's a question that we've got. When are you returning to the office if you're online? And as a leader, how do you feel about it?
Now, let's dive into some conversation. Every great strategy that a leader creates needs feedback. We can't do it alone. And one thing we learned last year is that multidisciplinary teams are essential to navigating crises. We cannot afford to be siloed, folks, and it's in our best interest to collaborate when we're working towards solutions. So I can't think of a better group of people that you're about to meet right now to guide the city through the next transition phase, a return to the loop. Personally, I can't wait. We need experts to help us make the decisions that are best for us as leaders and as organizations. So let's hear what they have to say. Dorval Carter, are you with us? Can you hear us, sir?
I am.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. I'm going to start with a question and then can't wait to hear your thoughts. What can we expect when it comes to how our buses, trains, and our mobility in general will change as people return downtown?
Well, I think it's safe to say that we have not been sitting quietly over the past year as we've been dealing with this pandemic. The reality is that CTA, as the mayor indicated, has been running full service during this entire pandemic. And the reason we did that was to maximize the ability of our customers to be able to socially distance and to be able to utilize our system as safely as possible. You're going to see cleaner trains and buses and stations. You're going to see our employees continuing a robust cleaning regimen that we already put into place. You're going to see a lot of information about masks. In fact, we just did a survey that indicated that we have almost 95% compliance with wearing masks on our system. which is a result of the requirements that you have to still wear a mask, whether you're vaccinated or not, when you ride public transportation. And that's based on federal regulatory requirements. You're going to see new technology. We've upgraded our Venture app, and we've worked closely with Apple to create a virtual venture card you can now use in our system that allows you to basically go through and pay for your fare in a touch with contactless way. You're going to see new electric buses. You're going to see new rail cars. You're going to see a system that is basically ready to welcome our riders back and to support the city as it starts to reopen going forward.
Outstanding. How many of you have your virtual venture card? Getting it? Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you, Dorval. We'll turn now to Suzanne Hendrick in person, who is Executive Vice President and Managing Director at MBRE, as acknowledged by the mayor. Suzanne, tell us what you're seeing as building experiences are changed and enhanced for the return to the Loop.
Hello and good morning. I think I can speak for all of us when I say we are looking forward to the successful reopening of the city and a thriving downtown Chicago. I'd also like to thank you for having me here today to share my thoughts on the changed building experience. Office buildings in Chicago are ready to welcome tenants back to the office. Over the last year, we've used the latest knowledge to create the best safety practices and procedures to guard tenants against the coronavirus. Combined with the current increase in vaccination rates and decrease in new cases, we look forward to welcoming back the tenants in the safest manner possible. What do returning tenants experience when entering the building? Enhanced cleaning and disinfecting, increased touchless service, optimize entry and exit designs for more fluid and socially distanced foot traffic, as you saw here at 110 North Wacker. Mainstay safety measures of the pandemic, such as face coverings, sneeze guards, hand sanitizing stations, will remain in place. Amenities that tenants love using are open with safe capacity restrictions. We're talking tenant lounges, fitness centers, and rooftop decks. And on a more technical level, engineers have made HVAC optimizations that increase the amount of fresh air in our buildings with the highest level of filtration possible. Science has also brought a lot of perspective to our early pandemic fears. Elevators, for example, aren't as risky as we once thought. Now we know that coronavirus is more contagious over longer periods of in-person contact. And any risks are further mitigated by the face coverings we've all become used to wearing. Similarly, the risks of transmission via touch aren't as high as we previously thought, especially when people remember to utilize hand sanitizer and wash their hands frequently. But Chicago's buildings aren't done when it comes to safety. We're here to accommodate our tenants in any ways necessary. I think that tenants and their employees understand that because we've seen upticks in occupancy rates over the last few weeks. This proves that a successful reentry can happen with thoughtful planning and clear communication between landlords and their tenants. Of course, there's no single return plan for all companies, but various strategies for businesses to utilize. Each tenant should plan their return based on their specific needs. If a staggered return suits their needs, then we're happy to accommodate as they bring in different groups of employees on different days or shifts. If tenants are modifying their hours or would like extra cleaning services, we're happy to help. And we're very pleased to see that on a whole, landlords are in touch with their tenants via building surveys and one-on-one discussions and understand more precisely how employees are returning to the office. The information that businesses should communicate with their buildings are letting them know what you know and when you know it, how many employees are returning, what kind of scheduling methods you'll use, and what building procedures will enhance the safety and confidence for your employees. If you haven't heard from your building lately, or your plans have changed, please reach out to them. Recently, I've heard tenants say that they plan on sending more employees back to the office as early as Memorial Day. We're excited to welcome all of them back. And other milestone dates that we've heard for increased occupancy are after the 4th of July and after Labor Day. Of course, some companies will remain apprehensive and will wait to see what others are doing. Buildings are happy to be flexible and appeal to the many different approaches. And a lot of us in the industry are confident that even the apprehensive tenants will happily return once they see how safe and productive it's been for others. So I want to thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you all in person downtown soon. Thank you.
So we're going to go to Deputy Chief Michael Pickett of the Chicago Police Department, who is joining us today to talk a little bit about safety downtown. Safety is obviously a top priority for all of us. The experts and the leaders here today, that's kind of what we're here to talk about too. And so, Deputy Chief Pickett, we'd love to hear from you. What can you share about what we can expect from CPD as we return downtown to ensure businesses and employees are safe?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Thank you. So it's an honor to be with you here today. As Mayor Lightfoot said, for pretty much the last 5 years, for the most part, I've been assigned to either the 1st or 18th district or in my new capacity in both of those districts. And I was here before the pandemic, and I'm looking forward to getting back to levels of people downtown pre-pandemic that we had. And I can tell you from someone that's been down here almost every day throughout this ordeal that you can really feel the energy now downtown, and you can see the crowds building, and it's really a good sight to see on Michigan Avenue. The crowds coming from the train stations has increased greatly, and we're really happy to see that. We're going to go back to our pre-pandemic deployments. We're going to focus on our retail corridors, but also on the pedestrian corridors that specifically our Metro lines and the Amtrak train stations that people normally walk to their job locations. So we're going to focus on high visibility. We're going to ensure that our police are out there, that we're visible to the public, that we're open to answer questions. We'll even give people directions if they forgot how to get back to their buildings. We're going to continue to focus on ensuring we're a professional police department that is going to ensure the safety of everyone that comes downtown, both for work and then for events after work. I'm looking forward to our theaters reopening, our restaurants at full capacity, and some of our festivals occurring as well. So we're going to work with our partners both in the private sector and other law enforcement agencies that work downtown, our security partners, and we're going to ensure that people feel safe when they come down and that they see the police, they see that we're out there, that we're actively engaged, and we're looking forward to this.
Excellent. Thank you, Deputy Chief Pickett. Appreciate those sentiments. And for all of our experts, for sharing your expertise with us. It's very insightful. One thing that we learned this last year is that leadership matters as it relates to how we manage through this experience and re-emerge from it. Having heard from our mayor and this esteemed expert panel, we are now more grounded in what the experts are telling us what returning looks like. We want to transition now and invite our esteemed CEO panel to come up and join us, if you would please, to shift and have a conversation about business and hear from some extraordinary business leaders, including Dave Casper, the CEO, US CEO of BMO Financial Group, Desiree Rogers, who, as the mayor said, needs no introduction, but CEO of Black Opal Cosmetics, and Dave Riefman, who is president, Chicago Business Unit of Clayco Partners, and was obviously previously a commissioner with the city as well. Let's welcome them, please. So thank you all for spending some time with us and joining us in person, which is an exciting event. Dave, if we can, Dave Riefman, if we can start with you, and I'll ask the same question to all of our panelists, but what does a return look like for your organization?
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I do want to make a very preliminary comment. As I'm sure you can see, I am not Bob Clark. Bob Clark is the CEO of Clayco. He wanted to be here today, had to travel for business, so I'm here to substitute and represent. But I think for those of you who don't know Bob Clark, You need to get to know him as an example of someone who has really led through this entire pandemic. One of the things I'll say about Clayco, I noticed in the questionnaire we had for everybody, when are you planning on coming in? And from Clayco's perspective, we've really been in the whole time. We have 50 jobs across the country that have remained active. We have 10,000 workers in every single day on our sites across the country. And really since about June, when the initial restrictions were lifted, people were back in the office. And since July 1st, we've had workforce back in the office. So we've done this safely, we've done this smartly, we've done this with policies. So we are largely in the office. In fact, we are fully in the office on a rotational basis, capacity basis, as of yesterday, officially. May 10th was the date that Bob chose. And we can get into that a little bit, but the truth is that being in the office is very similar, getting back to the office, to what we've tried to do really the whole time. Our attitude has been not whether to be in the office, but how to be in the office. And I think that's the example of the leadership that Bob has set.
Thank you, David. Desiree, you want to answer the same question? What's a return look like for you?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation. So as we think about, and we have not been in the office, so we exited our office in March of 2019. So we worked the complete time. We've been working virtually with our team, many that we've hired since, because we're growing. So we've actually hired people that are in various parts of the country over this pandemic. Our plan is to come back into the office in September. So a part of our thinking is we're at the Merchandise Mart. And so we have an office space inside of a conglomerate of office spaces at 1871. And so that thinking is not only the space that we have and how we conduct ourselves, but we've had to think about that greater space, which was very communal space. And so that is being completely refigured. So when you'd walk into the office, there'd be just lots of people just at desks kind of like this, but closer together. And so the whole dynamic of what 1871 used to look like is going to change. And so part of our maybe delay in moving forward is making certain that all of those processes are put in place and are satisfactory to both ourselves and the safety of our employees. And so our situation has just been a little bit different because we've had to depend on, how that setup was going to be for our employees. And it's also a big center for people coming in and out of the Merchandise Mart. It's a huge building. And so you've got a lot of traffic coming in and out of the building. I've been in the office, several days, over this period, and it's now starting to come back. So I'm excited about moving in. We'll be starting our office opening up will be in September.
Great, wonderful. Thank you, Desiree. Dave Casper, what does returning and opening look like for you and BMO?
Well, first of all, this is a beautiful building.
Mm-hmm.
And as I joked to someone earlier, good job, Riverside. We like this building so much, we bought one right down the street. But for us, it was really, it started, we've been thinking about it for a year. And we basically said, when the vaccine is readily available, and we didn't put a timeline on it because we have businesses in the US and Canada primarily, and Canada's in a different place. But we said, when the vaccine is readily available, when people that want it can readily get it, that's when we're coming back. And we've been signaling that for a long period of time. Last week, we said for a vast majority of our employees, okay, that looks like June 1st would be the time, first week of June. And we've said we're bringing people back at a 50% level. Two things. We said it's not mandatory. But what is mandatory is if you are not comfortable, you need to talk to your boss, your manager about it. You need to understand it. And we told everybody, check your judgment, Gene, at the door on this one. Everybody has a view, whether you wear masks, don't wear masks, shake hands, bump, don't come in. Just listen. We told everybody, listen, find out what the issue is, because we think the vast majority of our employees really do want to come back. It's just there's lots of issues that people still have to work through. So we're going to come back in June. And I think it's going to get, more and more throughout the the whole year or the whole summer. And I've been back. I have the best view. I look right down LaSalle and Clark, and every day I see a few more people. And it was pretty lonely last year, but it's as the mayor said and as you've said, it's definitely coming back.
Yeah, you've got a front row seat to actually watch it
I do.
happening.
Like,
You're in the
the
loop.
Starbucks is across the street is busier every day.
That's a good indicator. How busy is Starbucks? So a lot of variety in the answers and sort of the perspectives, what works for an organization, what might not. And there's going to be a lot of variety for the individuals, which Dave, you just sort of acknowledged. One thing that the mayor mentioned was how really hungry we are for collaboration and connection and being together. It's sort of a human instinct that we haven't been able to act on as much as we might have liked in the last year. So I'd love to hear, Dave, we'll stay with you. When it comes to networking, collaborating in person versus working from home, what do you sort of see as the pros and cons for getting back to the office at Bank of America? Or I'm sorry, BMO, sorry. Bank of America Tower.
We're not coming back here.
We're not, you better.
But it's a nice building. I think, first of all, I would point out a large number of our employees don't have the ability to work from home. You can't be a teller and work from home. There are many ways to get money and move money, but a lot of people still like to come to the branch and have. But for those that have been working from home, I think there's a couple things. It's psychological, first of all. I think it's hard. Especially some of our younger employees that are, mental health is actually a big deal. You are if you're in New York or Chicago or Houston or Dallas, and you're in a really small place, that's hard, and no family around. So psychologically, I think people want to get back. Culturally, we all have talked about the importance of working together. I'm looking at Mike old-fashioned, and I don't know, when you were at FCB, how many of the great ideas were developed and how many great brands were created, when you're in 10 different cities and nobody's looking at each other and having a drink or whatever. So I think that's the same in banking. I think it's the same in everything. It's tough to win business, tough to win mandates when you're not actually collaborating. And lastly, and the mayor picked on this, I think financially, and we've said this to our employees, even if you can work from home, and many have and figured out, think about all the shops you walk by from the train or the bus to get to the office, and how many of those people need us. And as a bank that promotes commerce, it's a bit of our responsibility. So we're shaming a few people, and in not a bad way, but the shoe shine person, the Starbucks is open, but a lot of the coffee shops aren't, and they need to. So for all those reasons, I think it's people are getting it and recognize they need to come back.
Thanks, Dave. Desiree, what would you say in this question of kind of collaboration and the benefits of in-person and virtual, that balance?
Sure, we've got a mix of employees. As you can imagine, many of our employees are women, and so young women, and so childcare is an issue. And so we've got to be flexible in terms of how we make that transition and ensuring that they in fact have what they need in place to make certain that their children are cared for, which is one of the reasons that we pushed it off. Let summer be with the mothers and their children, and have decided to move to September to open our office. Having said that, what you said is true. Some of the younger people, some have moved back to their parents' home. So they were like, when is that office gonna open? We're ready to come back. We don't want to be in the basement at our parents' home, any longer. So we have a wide variety, of people in terms of what their situation is. The collaboration is missing. So here's what I have noticed. If you knew the person well before the pandemic, then on a Zoom, on a phone call, their mannerisms. If they said this, they might mean that. You just know them. For new people coming in, we don't know them. And so sometimes there's confusion, or sometimes, people might get bent out of shape about something or whatever, or feel self-conscious about calling back and trying to get because they don't know the people. So it's been harder to integrate people on our team through Zooms, and people not having any time to socialize or be around them. So that's been very difficult for some of our new team members. And collaboration, so important. We're creating cosmetics. So just seeing, just the back and forth of new products and seeing them, testing them, looking at them together, all of that, you can't do that anymore. Or just design of retail. We're going into Ulta, just the design of the gondola. We made some mistakes because we weren't in the stores. The stores were, closed. And then, we've had to tweak. So we like on a second round, that would not have happened had we all been together and able to see the process, see what we created, see it in a store. We would have made those adjustments. So yeah, for our business, it really is important in many respects, the product development piece and how we present at retail. We should be all looking at that together and not over Zoom.
Yeah, such a tactile experience.
Yeah.
David, from where you sit, how are you experiencing innovation, collaboration as it is now? And what are your thoughts as we return, the pros and cons, like between the hybrid, working from home and being in person?
Well, first let me echo and I agree with what Dave and Desiree are saying. I think first about listening to the individuals, hearing the issues, being very focused on what you want to do in terms of issues of an individual's health or an individual's childcare needs. And these are issues that we've always cared about as a company, but that are really, very focused these days with how that impacts the company and the individual. So I echo and I share those feelings, and Bob shares those feelings. But I would say that we are very focused on the in-person aspect of collaboration at all different levels. Number one, we're a real estate company at every level. We have, to Dave's point with his tellers, we have 10,000 workers on sites around the country. They are on the job, safely on the job, but on the job every single day working. There is no option for a virtual collaboration. We've eliminated a certain amount of non-essential business travel that can be done, but otherwise, I think one example that Bob did is really telling and an example people should hear, which is he decided in October, he did a Job as the Boss tour, and he literally visited every single site around the country. It talked with every worker on our jobs, went out there and showed the in-person importance of our leadership also supporting those efforts. I'll say one last thing here in terms of that. Our preference, our focus, again, is how to get people back in person as quickly as possible. There will be a level of hybrid that will continue to exist. But Bob mentioned to me yesterday, and I'm sure Dave saw it, maybe everyone saw it, that Jamie Dimon said yesterday that he's not taking any more Zoom meetings. He's lost too much business to competitors who will get out there. And Bob said, look, I'm not doing this anymore. You want to meet me, schedule a meeting in person, and we'll sit down and we'll talk. There are ways to do it. So I would say our approach is very much focused on, again, increasingly being in person as much as possible.
Yeah, it sounds like honoring the individual experience, but also, asking for a bit of a stretch. Like, this is going to be uncomfortable. This is going to be new. Yet again, we're used to new and change now. To that end, I'd love to ask a question about kind of what's getting easier. A lot of what we talk about is that it's been hard and that it's been challenging, and it has. Again, I don't think we can even imagine how hard it's really been for years to come. What's getting easier? And then I guess, and I'll stay with you, David. What's getting easier, and what do you feel like is the current challenge? What is challenging today, May 11th?
Well, I think what's easier, first of all, is that I think, at least in our organization, but I think more generally, people are increasingly more comfortable. Decreasing infection rates, widespread availability of vaccines, the fewer cases has started to build some confidence in people to come in. And I think that has made things easier for us. One thing that's easier is how we manage it. We have a year of experience throughout all of our jobs. And we really have a good sense of what's working, what's not. One thing we do, I think, that makes it easier for our employees is we have $1 million in our budget to provide lunch at every single site for everybody throughout the entire year. If you're going to get to the office or get to the site, we're not going to ask you to then, go out and seek lunch. And again, it also supports local businesses. We work through a provider, but we've supported dozens and dozens of small restaurants through that as well. So it has that as well, that benefit as well. But I think we think it's looking and feeling more normal. We're better with flexible hours. We have a new policy now where people only need to be in, even if you're in 4 days a week, provide a day of flexibility to be in or out to, again, make it easier to navigate this. In terms of challenging, I would say two things. I think the issue of confidence in public transportation is an issue. I don't think public transportation is as much an issue. You heard from Dorval, you see what Metro's doing, but people's confidence to get back on a train. They're still fairly sparsely populated, and we all know what a full train looks like in a normal time, and how we get to that point and get people confident, because driving in is not an option for everybody here. And then the last challenge is, there are some people who just don't want to come back to the office. Thankfully for us, it's very few, but we have to work with that and understand that and try to get there. So those, I think, have been some of the more challenging things about opening up.
I just had an image of a full train car, and it actually made me kind of happy. Okay, I mean, never thought I'd say that, but it's true. Desiree, how about you? Easier, challenging?
I think what's been easier is it's changed us, and we are a team, and we got through this together. And so you have this, sense of having gone through something together, maybe in different ways based on what your circumstances are. But I feel like we're just a much closer group of people. And there's a lot more respect for what individuals have had to deal with in their particular families, whether someone passed away or someone knew someone that passed away. It's just, we all were kind of like knocked to our knees by this thing all at the same time. And so I think that as we look at coming back into the office, there's kind of a comrade kind of feeling that we got through this pandemic. And so I think that that's changed. Certainly our attitude on having people work remotely has changed. And so at the beginning, I was thinking like, I really wish everyone was here, and I don't like this remote business. I think it's much more difficult to manage and to do the work that we do. And now I'm much more open to that, and we will have flexible hours that was mentioned to allow people to be able to work remotely. I think the thing I worry about is there are a few people in our group that they don't want to take the vaccine. And so how do you manage, through that is going to be difficult. You can't, we can't make someone take the vaccine. That's not something that we would do, but just being able to respect an individual's desires, it could be a little bit difficult, especially, with us and with the rest of the team. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to have to figure out a way to do that. And certainly public transportation is important for many of our employees as well. And just some of them live out of the city. So just being comfortable that the city is a safe place for them is also going to be, something else that I've heard people talk. How's the city these days? How's everything down there? Is it okay? Is it safe for me? Those kinds of questions from people coming in outside of the city.
Yeah, we need a rally cry, right? City safe. Dave, I can feel you. There's something about what Desiree said that you want to piggyback on.
Well, I'm going to start with David. I want to reemphasize David's point on the CTA and the transportation, because we really do need to, whatever we need to do, spend some money, get the word out, it's safe, because that is almost the number one issue that we're hearing. Well, and there's a lot of good excuses. That's not a good one, but perception's reality. What Desiree said, it made me think, I think it is actually easier today because of what we've gone through to have some of these conversations. And the point you made earlier about, especially with new people, you don't really know, even when you're seeing them on a Zoom call, you don't really know what they're thinking. But I will say, and I've seen this across our whole management team, much better conversations. You can, if there's something good about it, if you have a good Teams or Zoom, you really can read people reasonably well, and you can block out a time that you might not otherwise have. And so it's been easier to talk about what the issues are. It's been easier for people to kind of open up in their home, where BMO has been an uninvited guest now for over a year. It's people are getting comfortable saying, here are my issues. They're more honest. And as I said before, we have to be much more understanding of what the issues are, and not, at the end of the day, get people to want to come back and not shame them into it, but to really get them to want to come back. And that's a process. And, all the other things that have happened around COVID here in the city and other big cities, I think that's helped too. It's allowed people to let their hair down a little bit, give a little bit more of themselves and get it back. So I'm really feeling good that this has got a lot of good outcomes, unexpected good outcomes. And the economy is booming. It really is. There is not a client we have that isn't excited about getting back. They don't have enough inventory. They don't have enough people, but they have enough demand. And I'm sure that's the case in everybody's business.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Amen.
I'm going to ask one final question that moves us kind of firmly beyond the domain of epidemiology and elevator safety and these questions of hygienics and physicality towards a theme that you've alluded to in different ways, but around leadership. And as we emerge out of this season, looking at the three of you as leaders of businesses and leaders in the public domain as well, what has this season taught you about leadership? Or is there a principle or a leadership lesson that you've clung to, or something that's been taught? Would love your perspective on leadership as we close today's conversation. Dave, we'll start with you if we can.
Well, number one, as good as a leader as you might have thought you were, you're not. You have to be human. You have to kind of acknowledge that you're going through this a little bit too. It helps, I think, just get everybody on the same page. And I think being genuine and being honest. I mean, there are people that I have a strong view on how important it is for our business to get back. And I think it's important to make that point, but also be willing to hear others and, listen. And, for us, it's important that everybody gets a say in this, but that kind of move in the direction that, as a leadership team, we're all kind of on the same page. So it's been a tough time, but I think we've all come out of this better leaders than we thought we were, or that we were when we came in. Still a lot to learn though.
Humbled and better.
I would like to learn how to use the mute button,
Yeah.
which I still screw up on a pretty regular basis.
That's coming. Yeah. Desiree, what about you on the question of leadership?
Sure. This is an interesting question. And for me, I would say just self-reflection, really, having more time, just to think about, how am I leading? What's important for people? Am I being as empathetic as I need to be? Am I understanding what each of them is going through? How can I be a better leader? And one thing which is so different from anything that I would ever have done before this, because I don't believe in a lot of this hokey pokey stuff, is I said to someone that I was really, one of the things I was worried about is just new talent, more talent, attracting talent, making certain that our team was, suited up for the growth that we hope to have and are experiencing. And she said, I got somebody for you. I called the guy. He sent me one of those tests, not the blue and you're this and that. I hate that stuff. It was like a 15-minute thing. I filled it out. And the one question was, what kind of person are you? You just pull it in the circles. And then the other one was, what kind of person are you at work? You fill in the circles, literally 15 minutes. And I forgot about it because remember, I don't like this kind of stuff. And I finally did call the guy and he goes, okay, are you ready? Are you ready for me to be really honest with you? I'm like, ready for what? He goes, I've got your analysis here. I'm like, what? Anyway, the man was just right on point. And the whole process, we're doing it for everyone now. But the real key thing is that not only did he just read me completely perfectly, but he also compared me with my executive team and said, this is why you may have trouble working with this person. You need to talk this way, or this person is, so I have all three of us, the three senior people. And it really was helpful in terms of me understanding, like, what does it take for them to understand what I'm saying and what I'm trying to get across. 15 minutes, I'm a different person. And so we're really excited about doing this across our whole organization, so that people can understand how people hear things, perceive things, and what makes them tick.
Amazing.
So
Wonderful.
that's what we're doing.
Thank you.
Love it.
Dave, what are you learning?
I guess I would sort of end where I started, which is, our leadership leads from the front. We can't expect 10,000 people to be on a job every single day if we're not on the job with them every single day, if we're not focused on their safety, if we're not focused on our policies and approaches that make it possible for them to do their jobs. And also how we react to our customers, how we work closely with our customers to provide that same sense of confidence in them as well. I think those are things that it's not necessarily something that we learn, but it's something that really those companies, which I think we're one of that really exhibited that characteristic, really found a way to truly grow and navigate this very, very complicated time. And I would finish by echoing what I think we all feel, which is this sensibility of the individual needs of our customers, of our workers, of our staff, of our leadership, how we adapt our policies, like the change at Clayco to allow 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week in the office. What does that swing day give to you? As long as you can get your work done, we can be flexible with what your needs are, understanding the company culture. So I think it's been an excellent time for leadership development in this time, and those companies that are successful have exhibited that type of leadership.
So appreciate the theme of empathy, of what we've learned about our customers, our employees, and ultimately ourselves. Really appreciate the honest insights and thoughtfulness from our panel. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
So it's time to wind down our conversation. Though I feel like we could keep asking questions because it all just feels good to be here. And by the way, at a hybrid event, many of you are probably going to be having these, right? Some are in person, people are at home. It's exciting that it can be done. And we've all participated in it today. And I think I think it's super cool. Okay, I hope you feel a sense of hope amidst the inevitable anxiety of a return. Anytime there's something new, we're going to feel a little scared. That's okay. We're going through something new as a city, but we're doing it together. So the person alongside you traveling down Monroe is going through something very similar. We're still in it together. But there's a couple key next steps. I think we've got some marching orders, if we choose to take them, from our CEO panel and our experts today. But visit and follow Chicago Returns. You must. It's going to be great. That's where we're going to connect and collaborate and plan future events. You can leave some feedback there about what you thought of today. And here's our other request, and our panelists said this too. Share how and when you're returning to the office. We're in this together, and many of us will need to model what we're doing to make the move in order to signal that downtown is in fact ready for us to come back, because we are. So share and share widely. And I think that's it.
We'll just end by saying thank you again to Meryl Lightfoot and her team, WBC and BOMA for co-sponsoring this event, Bank of America for hosting, and all of you in person as well as tuning in virtually for your commitment to Chicago returning. Let's return. Thank you all.